If you've got a problem in your garden with Japanese beetles, I have got some do's and don'ts that's going to help you solve that problem in this video. One of the first things that you don't want to do is ignore the problem. If you see even one of these beetles in your garden, you want to act immediately. When they find a plant they like, they will attract their friends in swarms. And before you know it, you could be having this size problem on your hands. We filled 3 of these buckets last year after they destroyed our fruit trees, vines, roses, and shrubs, and literally it happened in a matter of days. If you already have a Japanese beetle problem, which might be the reason that you are here, friend, my first do is get these Japanese beetle traps. These traps are non-chemical, they only attract the beetles versus other pollinators, and hanging a couple in your garden will help combat a big problem fast. There are also some other methods I'm using for the long-term win, and I'll share those after we take a closer look at the traps. So this is one of those Japanese beetle traps. They can come in bulk. I sort of buy them 6 to 8 at a time. They're in our Amazon shop, so I will link that below. So inside here, there's like this little green plastic piece that you slide on the top here, and it's got Japanese beetle pheromones inside it, and it works like a treat. They literally swarm to the trap. So when you're wanting to set up a trap, it's really easy. They've got these little flaps inside the bag, and they just click on like that, and that creates the funnel. So you just go all the way around the bag. And that's how they work. And then you take your little scent thing and you put it on the top. They even give you the tag to hang it up with. You can open them at the bottom, and you can empty your Japanese beetles into a bucket or something like that. Some people do use them to feed to their chickens. We tried that, but we found that by the time that the bag fills up, the beetles at the bottom are dead, and they are like stinking so bad that our chickens actually didn't want them. So I think if you are going to use them for chicken feed, you're probably going to want to harvest them every day. This year we've had 1 trap out, I'd say for about the last 4 weeks, and it has filled up. Last year, if you've watched our video, we were filling 3 bags a day, and we collected a vast number of beetles. But I think if you stay on top of it, then you're really going to make a difference for your garden next year. I feel that the things that we did last year has had a huge impact on the amount of beetles that we've had this year. We are still getting beetles in our garden, but not nearly in the population numbers that we had last year. I know not everywhere in the States struggles with these beetles, but I know people who have written to me and they've said that they had a couple of beetles on their plants last year, and then they have had an exponential increase in beetles this year. And here's why. What happens is that the adult beetles are attracted to your plants, which they feed on. They sort of seem to attract each other. You get clusters of beetles who then mate with each other. The females drop to the ground. They then bury into the ground over winter. They lay their eggs. The larvae hatch. And then as they mature in sort of like before the end of winter, before spring, in your following year, those grubs start to feed on the grass roots and things in your garden, and then they will hatch again early summer. So my philosophy is even just getting 1 beetle off a plant is going to stop that beetle from reproducing, and it's also going to stop that beetle from attracting other beetles to your plants. So at this time of day, it's already really hot. We're in the shade at the moment. But if I go try taking the beetles off the plants at this time of day, what happens is that they just fly away. So what I do is I actually spray them before I get them into a little dish of soapy water. When they put their little legs up like that, that means that they're actually getting ready to drop off the plant. So if you see them doing that, hurry up and spray them, because sometimes they actually just, their defense seems to be that they drop off into the soil and then you can't find them again. So here he is. I was able to catch him because he's wet. And I actually just leave the soapy water and a little bowl next to a lot of my plants around the garden. My next line of defense is my guinea fowl. They are the most phenomenal bug-eating birds, and I let mine freely roam in the garden. The reason I've got this log sat next to the trap is not because I want to be able to sit down and watch the beetles. They're actually landing on my back here. But because I noticed our guineas were coming up to the trap and they could see the beetles within and they were pecking the bag to try and get to the beetles, and the guineas will come and they will stand on this log to get themselves a free meal. It's actually hilarious watching them stand on the log and then they literally just eat the beetles as they're going into the bag. The guineas are very intentional about hunting bugs. Like if my chickens find a grasshopper and they miss it, then they don't try too hard to go recover that grasshopper. The guineas will pursue a grasshopper like over 100 feet. It's actually incredible. So if you can have guineas and you don't have neighbors, they can get noisy. And we do have a video on raising guinea fowl, but they have been like some of the best birds to have on our homestead. In my quest to find out how to destroy these beetles, I think I read every research paper that had ever been done on studies of Japanese beetles, like how they reproduce, where they came from, how long they've been in the States. And there are 400 different species of plant that these beetles will go after. In our garden, they seem to really like the grapevine, which is behind me. They destroyed this grapevine last year. We actually lost the grapevine that was on the other trellis, so they killed that one. They went after the kiwi vine too, but not as badly, and we lost the kiwi vine on there. And then they're going after my apple trees. The other plants that they seem to like are the peas, and they also went after my raspberries and blackberries. The other interesting thing is that I plant petunias around the base of a lot of my plants, and I have noticed that those plants that are growing in amongst the petunias do not get nailed by the Japanese beetles. So I don't know if they don't like petunias or whether the petunias kind of disguise the plant that is growing there. As you can see, we are heavily wooded here, and the beetles also go after the trees. So I think one of our biggest problems, and you might have this too if you are on a woodland homestead, is that you might have beetles in the soil in your woodland. You can see that this tree behind me has been completely annihilated by beetles. This area of the pasture is just covered in these leaves that have been defoliated. I mean, look at what the beetles do. So I want to show you something that has been working for us on our property. So as I said, the beetles are going after the trees in the woodland and are probably responsible for a lot of the trees sort of dying. So for those of you who follow us, you'll know that we keep mangalitsa pigs and we run them in our woodland and they root up all of the poison ivy and the poison oak. But I think part of what they've been doing is, as they have been rooting and foraging, they're probably eating a high percentage of the Japanese beetle grubs that fall from the trees and then lay their eggs and overwinter in the ground. I am sure that they have helped reduce the Japanese beetle population that we saw last year in our garden. If you found this video helpful or useful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you like this kind of content. It's getting way too hot to be out here in the gardens. So drop me a comment in the comment box below and I will see you there for some discussion on Japanese beetles.